Well, welcome to Mindful Mondays with Laura Cross and this episode of Illuminating Your Inner Light, Insights from Dr. José Van Den Akker. She is a visionary soul guiding you towards restoring balance of body, mind, and spirit. And she has expertise in art therapy and a wealth of academic knowledge that she uses to empower you to unlock your highest potential and embrace authenticity, independence, and self-confidence. So, Dr. José, thank you very much for joining us today.
You're most welcome. Thank you for having me, Laura.
Thank you. So how did all of this work that you do as a researcher, an art therapist, as a spiritual teacher, how'd that start for you?
How it started for me, I grew up in the Netherlands, and when I was very young, I started to wonder what communication actually was. When I saw people interacting with one another, and I thought, that's not really what I see as communication. Most of it was miscommunication. So I wanted to understand what communication actually was. I knew what wasn't right, but I didn't know quite what it was at that time. So I guess it's always driven me to find out what is communication between people. And then I found out as time went on, I went through high schools and then academia, and I worked in all sorts of different places. And I found out that very people actually understand what communication is and don't understand who we really are. As well, are we just a body and a mind and a brain? Like as the scientists would tell us. But so what drove me to do my work is to make people understand of who we really are and what communication actually is.
Yeah, I don't think anybody really knows truly what communication is because, we always thought, it's just whatever you say, but it's so much more. They always tell your eyes, your body language. There's so many things in there that can tell. And, you could be saying one thing, but your body says another. And there's even more deeper, which I know you have gotten into. As a matter of fact, you have recently authored a book, Universal Heart, connecting you at the center of your cross. So what inspired you to write that book?
So, yes, it's this book. And what inspired me to write it is to as an art therapist, I have been focused very much on not fixing. I'm not into fixing people's issues. That's not it. Because that only stagnates the person more into the idea of them being a body and a brain that is just being troubled. So, but the thing is, what I find is when I am working with people as an art therapist, I notice that people are very much focused on their illness. And so they because they haven't been informed, and I'm not informing them as an art therapist about the bigger picture, about the human conditioning and how people are being conditioned. And that's something that happens across humanity. We all are being conditioned and conditioned others in as part of the process that we've learned to engage in. So, but none of that stuff I can go into as an art therapist because I work with people as an art therapist, as a transpersonal art therapist, I must say. So I acknowledge the unconscious that's coming up and that's bubbling up in the drawings that people make, but it's still focused on what's the issues that are troubling people, and it's still very much sort of like it stays a bit within limited viewpoint when I don't give the extra information about the human, how we are conditioned as a human being. And people need to understand that just to get the data, the information that tells people how we are being conditioned, how did we come to be in the place where we are, individually, as groups, in the world, worldwide, and how all of that actually impacts on the whole of the cosmos. So as cosmic beings, so to speak, I can't go there as an art therapist because that goes against the grain of some people and of people's belief systems. So that's not what I'm there for when I offer art therapy. But in my courses and and the programs that I run are based on this book. So I'll I thought I'll first write a book with the basic information in it, and then in my programs we dove deeper into it.
Yeah, and like you said, people always look for other people to fix them, but they really can't. They can guide you, but really you are in charge of you, and only you can fix you. So really pretty much anybody I think we go to just is a guide, or kind of helps give you a different perspective, but basically the person has to do the work themselves. Correct?
Absolutely. Yes.
Yeah.
And thank you for bringing that up, because we have been so conditioned as paradigm what do you call it, being paradigmed. Is that a word? Well, that exists now.
Well, you talk about so let's go there, because you talk about paradigms in your book, and I don't know if everybody actually knows what you mean by paradigms.
A paradigm, shall I give a definition first? Let me see if I have it here. Well, basically, a paradigm is a particular way of thinking. It's a pattern of thought. In the scientific world, it's well understood. Well, when people do a PhD, at least, because you have to explore your paradigms. Where are you coming from? So you have to know what a paradigm is. And there's a guy called Kuhn. I've forgotten his first name now, but he wrote a book in 1974 on paradigms. So that's sort of when the people in scientific world started to understand, at least, that there's such a thing as us being caught in a particular way of thinking, in a thought pattern. And so, and we do that habitually. We just take it on board as a result of our upbringing. Our parents have been paradigmed, so they paradigm us. And our education system further paradigms us, because it contains a particular paradigm, like the world is this particular way. So you have to believe that the world is this particular way and not another way. And if you think another way, then that's weird, or, don't go there and you get bad marks if you think differently. Yeah.
Or you've shifted into another paradigm.
Exactly.
There's really multiple different paradigms. So really it's it's the upbringing, your surroundings, the things you're influenced by. And, doesn't mean you can't learn new ones, because when you start getting open to new perspectives and new things, well, then you can possibly take on a new paradigm.
Yes. So what happens before people take on new paradigm, their set paradigm, so to speak, the one that they're used to using, has to be shaken up first. Something has to happen for the person to at least query, like, I'm thinking this way, but does it actually add up? Like, are people, for example, made up of atoms, or is the environment actually influencing me, my genetic makeup, the way I feel physically and mentally? Is that more, and spiritually, is that more related to the field? Like, drawing on the quantum sciences, they talk a lot about the field or the environment, but the environment big time, like way out into the cosmic space. So the quantum field, they call it. And are we actually influenced by that quantum field, or are we just this genetic body that's, like with the genes, and the genes make us sick? Like Bruce Lipton talks a lot about that. Yeah. So he talks about, no, we're not influenced. We don't get sick because of our genetic makeup. It makes us that way. No. It's actually the field that we resonate with, and the degree that we actually accept and resonate with that field, that determines our well-being, our state of well-being. So two very different paradigms. The one is the germ theory, they call it, and the other one is called the quantum theory, or the field theory, and two different ways of thinking. So, like, I know that you worked in the military. I believe you did.
Yep, yes. I was an Air Force veteran. I worked on F-15s and F-16s, but yeah, military is a different life. Like you and I were talking earlier. So military is, you do what they want, when they want, and there's really no questions asked. 15 minutes early is on time. Anything else is late. You start getting stuck with all of those kind of things. And so I will tell you, I used to be that way, but it caused more stress than I needed, because when I started meeting with people and realizing other people have meetings. And, I always expect people to jump on a few minutes early, but if I tell someone I'm going live at 2 and they jump in on like a minute before or right at 2, and I'm like, I just decided, it's like, you know what? It's life. It's okay. I roll with it. I had to ditch that, but I used to get so, it used to really make me unnerved or anxious just because I'm like, okay, we're supposed to be here and start. Why are we not, starting on time? And it's like, life's too short for all that. I had to ditch that.
Oh, excellent. So you actually recognized the mechanism. That was a result of the paradigm that you were trained in.
Yeah. Yep. And there's some that come up. Some of it's just terminology and different things. And sometimes I don't even realize it because it's gotten to be habit until someone like calls me out on it. It's like, oh, yeah, okay. I guess that's where.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. But, I think when you're open to learning and you're open to new perspectives, any of that can easily be changed. You were talking about the two different fields and like energy fields or this. And if I'm not mistaken, part about what we were talking about is like, so like in the military, you got used to where, okay, you don't feel good, you're sick, go to the doctors, they throw Motrin, whatever at you to like fix it and stuff. But energy field, that's totally different. That's because really the drugs are like a Band-Aid. It's not fixing what caused the problem in the first place, but an energy field basically addresses the root of the cause. Correct?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah.
So there's lots of things you can learn out there. I love it. But so we're talking about the paradigms, but your book, okay, it says the center of your cross, and I don't think it's what people are thinking. So could you explain maybe a little bit of what you mean by the center of your cross?
Yeah, the center of your cross. So let's just have a look at my logo. So let me take a drawing as well.
Okay.
Put up a drawing. So I created this drawing a little while ago, which became that logo. But most of us are living next to us. Sort of like, it's like we're walking next to ourselves, our own bodies. Uh-huh. And so we're out of alignment with the heavens and the earth. And we are out of alignment with the social world, anything in the horizontal world. So as a result, it feels like we live next to ourselves. I think there's even a saying in the English language. But then this is where I'm focused on in my work and my own development, like just to be right at the center of the cross. So I am connected spiritually and mentally and physically with the heavens and the earth, and with all the wind directions like a compass, north, south, west, east, and all the other directions in between. So it's a bit like the medicine wheel in the traditional languages, where they recognize all the wind directions and Father Sky and Mother Earth. And so at the center of the cross is where we are. But many of us, like when I show that drawing of living alongside yourself, it's like that's a result of being conditioned. So we don't know really who we are. We just play out a particular way of being that, or conditioned self, you can call it. So that, we grow up as a child, and then some things we like that we are being told, and other things we don't like. And then there's the paradigm conditioning that happens through education and what our parents and our sisters and our brothers believe. And then so we grow up in that, and we create a certain identity. And then we think that we are that identity, that we are that one person who wants to become a teacher or a radio broadcaster or a military person or a nurse or whatever. And then we become that nurse or that teacher or whatever it is, and we take on that personality, and we think that that's us. And then we become a mom and dad, and we think that that's us. And so we define ourselves completely within those roles. Right. And so we have a function now in society, and we think that that's us, and that's what makes us valuable, which is like that's very limited way of thinking about who it's a paradigm. We're caught in a paradigm then, and thinking that this is us, that's all, the world, and that the world that we see out there, that's the world, and there is no other world, only what we see with our visual eyes and what we think is I mean, when we look differently and we expand our viewpoints, we get to see that the world is actually made out of energy, like that none of what we see is just that. Like it's all energy. But it takes a bit of practice to first, like what you were saying earlier on about recognizing that you were caught in a paradigm, and so then you'd shaken it loose, and now your viewpoint and you got different perspectives on yourself and the whole world, and that's only expanding and expanding because it's unstoppable once you've opened up your eyes, say. And so where were we going with this?
Well, we're good. First of all, I want to let everybody know that with what we're talking about is parts of stuff of your book and how you work with people. And I did put the QR code up there, so because Dr. José does offer a free download of her book, so you can get that QR code and you can download the book, and it will describe in much more detail of what we are talking about. But yeah, I get what you're saying, because really, you keep doing this, and then we feel that, and then this, and then you feel you do that. Do you think part of that is just because we are so busy just doing what we think we're supposed to do, and that we're not taking the time to realize that there's, more out there? What do you feel is blocking us from that, or what do you think helps make people get people to make that shift?
First, recognizing that fact that we are so caught up in our doing, and that it's all completely habitual and compulsive.
Okay. Yeah, and you were talking about energy. We talked about being, and so that's something else your book talks about is being in relationship. Go ahead.
Yeah, I just want to go a bit further into that, because when a person sits quiet, for example, just for 5 minutes, sitting quiet and doing nothing at all, no meditation, no nothing, just sitting quiet and sitting on a chair, and just sitting down. It's amazing what can happen in those 5 minutes. And that's when we can realize, I'm all the time caught up in just doing. And just being, just sitting still, not doing anything, nothing at all, just no meditation, nothing that we have to do. Being in a space, just sitting down or standing up somewhere, and that's it. That's all we do for 5 minutes. That's when it starts to dawn on us, my God, I'm all the time, all the rest of the day, I'm caught up in doing this. And
have you ever had clients that tell you that they can't or have trouble sitting 5 minutes? Because normally we're grabbing electronics or we're doing something. Have you ever had clients tell you that they want you to give them something to do rather than doing nothing?
Yes. So there's an expectation involved. That's completely correct. When I come in and I work with a person as an art therapist or as a teacher, people come in with expectations. And they think that I can fix things for them, which I can't, of course, but I can give them exercises that allow them to realize, like what we were just talking about, for example, that we're caught up in doing this all the time. And just by realizing, just by even just doing that exercise of 5 minutes of just doing nothing, and then feeling like, my goodness, like how much we are entrained, because it is again a matter of being trained in that system of doing and being meaningful in society, having a function. It's that functionalist, as I call it in scientific terms, but like a social scientist, I must say, but like that functionalist thinking, like everything has a function, which is true, but that's not all there is to it. There is such a thing as just being, and that being is really great and unlimited.
Yeah, especially if you can turn everything off, including the brain, because I think a lot of people have trouble with that.
Yes. And it is a matter, that's what I do in my programs too. And a little bit when I work with someone as an art therapist, but I just let them come back into their bodies. Most of us are just out of our bodies. You know, we hang above here somewhere. And when we sit on a chair, we float above the chair, really, rather than sitting on it. And when we stand on the ground, we hover above the ground rather than actually being totally rooted in the soil, so to speak, with our energy, because we have these energy chakras underneath our feet, and chakras everywhere. And with that, yeah, we connect with the world of energy. Yes, again, where am I going? Where are we going?
No, that is a different view, and that's something we need to explore more, because that's not something we're taught in school. Is energy and all of that, and everything has energy. Even though things look like there's actually still energy, and we're going to tap into that. But right now, we need to take a word from our sponsors, and we will be right back.
We got soul.
Hello, my name is Dr. José Van Den Akker. Welcome to Universal Heart, connecting you at the center of your cross. I'm an author, a speaker, a therapeutic coach, a transpersonal art therapist, and a spiritual teacher. You can organize your free discovery session by going online and visit universalheart.com.au. You can also buy my book. You can invite me as a keynote speaker. I can offer you training and coaching and online program. Bye for now.
Hi, I'm Sarah Stockham, and I'm host of Simply Sarah. Join me Thursdays at 3 p.m. Pacific on the Achieve TV network for the best energetic tools to elevate your amazing life right here on E360 TV.
So we were talking about energy, and like I said, we were never really taught that, or at least I was not in my generation in school. I have even gone back to school, and people mostly don't talk about that. But even though you think something is static or still, it really still has energy. So maybe you can explain a little further about that and how that works.
How it works is, it's all a matter of perception. It's when we think that we see something solid and don't look further with intention, that thing stays solid in our viewpoint, in our way of thinking. That thing stays solid. But when we just decide, because it is a decision, and with intention, look at an object for a little while, but with the intention to understand the thing better. So you might look at the tree, for example, and look at that tree and just see the surface. But when you keep looking, you start to see more and more. And then what a lot of us do is, because we're used to quitting too early, just glancing over things, we sort of then feel inclined to look away at something else. And not recognizing that we are so used to skipping from one object to another object. And so our life stays very superficial, and we see everything as static, just locked in time and space, different things, objects, people, all hooked into time and space. But when we look at one thing, one person, one object, one tree, whatever. Anything we want to focus our attention on, or anything not even want to focus on, just that we decide, okay, I'm going to have a look for 5 minutes at that object or at that person in silence, saying nothing, just looking, just watching and seeing what I'm actually observe. And observing, like the judgments, like just let them sort of just rattle away. Oh, that tree looks like it looks green, or it looks old, or just notice all those judgments and keep looking. Oh, now I see a tree that's, oh, okay, it's actually, it's touching the surface of the earth. Okay, that's interesting. Oh, okay, it's got all these different branches and all those leaves. And if it doesn't have leaves in winter, that's really good, because then you get another perspective again. But you see that tree and then the leaves, and then just ponder like, oh gosh, they're actually breathing in air and then breathing out CO2. And just seeing, like, when I look at the tree and you look at it longer enough, you can almost see that it's drawing, a tree is actually like this. It's sort of putting all its branches out to the heavens to catch as much cosmic sunlight as it can, and as much air as it can. So it spreads itself out completely. And then we look further and we look at, like, I've looked at the tree, for example, and I just looked at the tree, and then I start to see the energy lines, like as if the energy is going up and then going down really fast. And all of that we can do as long as we recognize the thing is, like, and I often still catch myself on it, like, am I quitting too early? Like, just because we're so conditioned, like I say, to hop from one object to the next. Most of us find it difficult to self-reflect even, because we are so used to being fixed first up.
Yeah.
And also just, being on the go. Like, oh, no, I have no time. Oh, no, like I have no time. As if we're being caught in time, as if time determines what we do. It's ridiculous. Ridiculous concept. It's just that, and training that we're talking about, for example, in the military, but it's the same in schools. I mean, everything is regulated according to time, which has a function. It's very functional, but in the greater scheme of life, it means nothing. Time is just timeless. It means nothing.
Yeah, and I think that's a tough concept, because that's most, we're always taught like time is money, and so you only have so much time, and we probably put way too much emphasis on that. So, yeah.
I wanted to go back actually to the center of the cross too, which ties on in a bit with what we're talking about now. And so, like, I think earlier on you were saying that only we can walk our journey. Other people can guide us along and give us tips and hints and suggestions and advice and all sorts of things. But in the end, it's still us who decides. Once we recognize, for example, in that being compulsive in doing, once we recognize, oh my God, I'm doing all the time. I'm just so wrapped up in doing this all the time. What do I want to do about this? Do I want to keep doing this? Like, and then recognizing, oh, hang on, I'm actually responsible for all this. I can change my life. I can sculpt my life the way I want it. And so, like I say in my book, at the center of your cross, you are the sculptor of your sculpture being your life that you create from birth on up till death, and then you die, and who knows what happens after that. And then we probably sculpt more, but then in other spheres, but we sculpt differently, because we sculpt more with energies then, whereas here in this physical universe on planet Earth, it's all very physical. So, like, as a sculptor, someone who creates sculptures, we create this sculpture called life, or we paint a picture. Like, just imagine yourself, you paint a picture, or you paint a picture, even in your imagination, but you're that person who paints that picture. That is not your brain.
No,
It's you. It's all of you. And what is all of you? Well, some call it spirit, but it's the essential you, the soul being that you are. That one creates that painter that you see in your mind, or in the visual, in the real material world. You make a picture and then you're the painter, but who's the one who actually paints the picture?
right.
Mm.
Yeah. Although sometimes I think we like to try and blame it and put it on other people, but it's really comes down to you.
That's the one.
Yeah.
And that's you at the center of your cross. Like however you want to, like I said in my when I did my PhD, I was all the time going on about the metaphor cross actually translate into suffering and transformation. It's both and, always both and, never either or. It's both and. So it's both suffering, and through the suffering we transform. We cannot skip the suffering and pretend it's not happening, because or we get the suffering then, because it's there for us. We get our challenges for us to learn from and transform whatever we've created in that place of suffering. And
Right.
by transforming that, we are operating at the center of our cross. So we accept our challenges, accept our life path as it is, and transform it to become more of all of that we want to be, and be that painter, completely conscious this time, not automatic, but actually conscious of, hey, I'm creating this painting or this sculpture called life, my life.
Yeah. Yep, definitely.
That's
So
when we take on responsibility. And most of us are still scared of taking responsibility because it feels different. We're not used to it. We're used to being on automatic. But once we accept ourselves at the center of our cross, we assume that responsibility and we stand in it. And then there's no holding back. It's just, that's where we operate from.
see, you've worked with a number of people. So what is kind of what your process is, or what does that look like when you're working with someone?
When I
know there's different situations and it's got to be tailored. So if you can just maybe pick a situation, because I know otherwise that's just kind of a really vague question, but maybe give an example. Yeah.
Give you an example. Okay. Do you want to do an experiential? Because
Sure.
that's how I teach people a lot of the time. Yeah.
Okay.
Also, in my programs, I give a bit of theory and then I give an experiential for people to experience, to get the felt experience of what that theory, what that means to them.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so let's have a look at, for example, so there's viewpoints, for example. We have viewpoints on life, and your viewpoint is different because you've been different to mine. For example, a viewpoint on, well, you were raised in the military, say, and I wasn't. So you have a different viewpoint on the military.
Yeah.
So, yeah, like you have yours with your experience, and I have mine with my non-experience, and just looking from the outside in. And so, and there's no wrong on either viewpoint. They're both just different viewpoints, and they can coexist. And we can have a dialogue about it rather than debate. It's not about debate, so we can have a dialogue. Okay, so you have a different viewpoint than mine. Now, so the idea is to expand our viewpoints. That's what I am about in my work. So to help you expand your viewpoints, for example, I ask a person to pick up an object. So can you pick up an object and we'll explore it from different angles? So can you do that? Okay, what is that?
It's my water jug. I take this with me everywhere and make sure I drink enough water. So it's, keeps it cold.
Okay, and you take it everywhere. So it's your companion almost. That's your
kind of, yeah.
Yeah, okay. Because what I see there is just a blue bottle of sorts.
Okay.
Container of sorts. But you have a different interpretation of it, yeah? You take it everywhere. Tell me a bit more about that bottle.
Well, it keeps things cold for up to 50 hours. So even when I'm out in the heat, I can still have cold water. Or it can have it hot, keeps it hot for a really long time. So it depends on what the weather's like. So,
okay. Yeah. Okay.
And
So
I don't have to use plastic bottles, so because I don't want to use plastic bottles, they're not good when with the plastic and in the heat. So I have
okay.
these.
Okay, so you have all these are different viewpoints on your bottle. Now, I would like you to have a look at it from different angles. So just explore it upside down and from every angle, and pretend that you've never seen this object before. And just see if you can see anything that you haven't seen before, perhaps. Just explore it deeply. The color, the shape. Take the top off, have a look inside. Feel the texture of the thing. What's the temperature like of the thing?
Well, outside it's warm, but inside they're cool.
Okay. What's it smell like? Yeah.
Oh, it's just water.
Okay. So no smell to it?
Nope.
Mm-hmm. So you can twist that top. What's that feel like, twisting that top?
I don't know. I never thought about that.
What's it sound like? Sometimes you have no words for it. It's just,
I was going to say, yeah, I don't really have words for it. It doesn't really have a sound. I just always make sure it's tight because if it tips over, I don't want water water going everywhere. So if the seals are missing, it will leak. But right now, it's got all the seals.
Okay. Now, can you hold it up in front of me? And so you see a particular angle of that bottle, can't you? So, and I
got the backside.
And I can see, yes, and I cannot see what you call the backside. I can only see what you would call the front side.
That would be the backside.
Okay. So what I can see now, when you look at the backside, I cannot see your backside, and I cannot see what you can see, like that thing that you're holding, that loop that you're holding. It's attached to something, and that attachment I cannot see.
Oh, yeah, it's actually part of the whole bottle. So if you were hiking or something, you could actually strap it to.
Yeah,
makes it easier to carry than to sit here and have your hands, go around it.
Yes. But so the point is, like when you hold it up again, like that you see the backside. Yeah. And I see nothing of what you see. Now, just turn it around again so that you get an understanding of what I'm trying to say here. Yeah. So now I can see the backside and you can't, right?
Yeah, right.
So I describe the backside now to you, and I describe it as I see a dark blue ring, and above that I see like it's two things standing up, and you cannot see that, right? Because I couldn't see it earlier on when you was.
I can't see this part. I can see the humps on either side, but I can't see what's in the middle or how it's actually connected. Because from this view, it looks like the handle actually comes out of this top, but it doesn't because it's attached from behind.
Yes, so that attachment I can describe to you, but you can't see it, but I can describe it to you, right?
Right.
And so it's got like two things, I don't know, two hooks, and then there's
it's actually the hinge for the top part because this comes off so you can drink.
Yes. Oh, look at that.
So,
okay.
Yeah, so it's all.
So say when I look at the backside and describe it to you, and you can't see the backside because you've never seen the backside, you've never turned a bottle. I describe it to you, and you might say like, "Gosh, that's totally ridiculous. What are you talking about? What do you mean two crosses? And what, you know what I mean?" So
Right.
I might say like to you what my perspective is, and then because you've never seen it, you might say like, but that's ridiculous. That just, it doesn't exist. What are you talking about? Yet it does exist as soon as you twist that.
Turn around and say, yeah.
Yeah. And you start to see my viewpoint. And the other way around, when I see your viewpoint, I get a more complete picture. And like Dave, my teacher, he always used to say like, nobody sees 360 degrees.
No, we don't. We probably like to think we do, but we don't.
And the more we share the viewpoints, the more we see the 360 degrees.
Yeah. But I like how you put that too. There is no wrong because there really is no judgment. It's just a different view.
Exactly.
Yet, for some reason, in a lot of our communication, we feel someone has to be right or someone has to be wrong, and you really don't. Yeah.
There is no such thing as right and wrong.
Nope, just perspective.
There is rightness, though, versus righteousness. Righteousness being like the being right, thinking that you're always right. And rightness is that what aligns with your ethics, with your highest ethics.
Okay.
That kind of right does exist. And the natural right that we have as human beings, our birthright, that sort of right does exist. But there's no wrong on it because it just is. It just is. Yeah.
So really, when you work with people, you just kind of help give them a different perspective or a different view. Help them have the ability to see things differently.
Yes, and perceive differently as well. So, like in my book, I talk about the sensory self and the sensing self. So I do, like in my art therapy, I give the focus is all the time on the experiential experience. So that's why I asked you, like with your bottle, what's it feel like? What's it smell like? What's the shape like? What's it, very much to make people embodied again, because we are embodied and our spirit lies in this body. And so by experiencing the sensory world, but not just the five senses, so-called, but also our biofield, by doing a standing meditation or just sitting still, for example, and we start to feel both the energies whirling inside and around us, and we become more conscious of them. Again, no right or wrong, just perceptions. They're just perceptions, but the more we move into them, the more we experience the richness of those energies, just as they are. Not, again, no right and wrong, because it doesn't exist. And so the aim is to understand more of who we are as sensory beings and as sensing beings. So I make the distinction between the sensory self that feels, for example, like you encounter someone or something, and something feels right or it feels wrong, in terms of, it repels you or it attracts you. And so that's the sensory self in operation. It knows what is right and what is wrong for you in terms of your health, what sustains you, what becomes you, what makes you grow, and what damages you, your whole being. We just know it somehow. We know, when we get out of our conditioned mind, we know what is right and what is wrong for us, and what is right and wrong for the world, and for the greater good. We do know.
So what is the difference between sensory self and sensing self?
Sensing self just notices, observes. So it's that silent one who just, like when you sit down just for 5 minutes doing nothing, then the sensing self starts to kick in and just notices. Notices the urge to stand up or to start doing again, and notices the sounds that are going on. No judgment. No, nothing like, oh, this is right or wrong for me. It's just like, oh, I hear a sound, like I hear the sound of an ambulance now. I could go into panic. I could do all sorts of things, and I just noticed that. And that's the sensing self. It's just being present.
Okay. Yeah, I was gonna say, because they're very close in terms. So, and kind of close, just depends on how you see it. Now, in your book, you talk about, because we talked about being, and you have a thing that says being in relationship. Can you tell me more about that? And tell everyone more about what you mean by being in relationship.
Yeah, so it's kind of like what I was showing in this drawing. We are in relationship always, and at the core is in our heart, we are always in relationship. We are beings in relationship. It's just part of, it just is. So, but we have been conditioned to think that we are separate from everything. And so hence we have feelings of isolation, of being separate. And we are not separate. We are interconnected with everything. We're always in relationship, whether we like it or not. And so the thing is, so the conditioned self is always out of relationship, is not communicating, is always in miscommunication and missing the mark, because there's always all these filters of our stuff, our conditioning, that sort of blocks us from being in relationship. And so once we start to recognize that conditioned self and all the different aspects of it and how we get hooked into a game that takes us out of relationship time and again, over and over, in time and space, then the more we and then obviously it's not going to happen. We can't make that switch overnight. It just happens over time, that we become more and more aware of the fact that we are in relationship, always, everywhere. And that extends out, like in my book, I talk about the non-local mind. Like we think ourselves in the local mind as the identity that's here. You are Laura, I'm José, two separate beings, got nothing to do with one another. We just happen to communicate over the internet. And yet, there is also this, like, we're communicating because that's what we do. Like, not just verbally, we hear the messages, we communicate, we hear all the words, we feel each other's presence. So the non-local mind, like even in the non-local mind, I can be both right there with you and I can sit here in this chair. So like sometimes, like, for example, I miss my home country from time to time. In the Netherlands, there's certain areas, certain spaces where I love to be. It's just beautiful, natural. I have a strong connection with the land there, as well as here in Australia. There's certain parts of the land that I feel strong connection with. And sometimes I have such a deep yearning to go there and be there. But now I've realized I don't need to necessarily fly back to Holland to be in those places. I can just go there in my mind. And I've actually experienced that I was there fully present in that other space. And so I realized, so that's what you can do. We can both be here and we can be somewhere else where we really like to be or where we want to be for whatever purpose.
It's almost like a mental vacation.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Especially if you've been there, you've got the images. I'm sure you have the images in your head. You just have to kind of access them.
Well, in the non-local mind, it's actually a reality. I am actually there. It's not just in my mind here. Okay. It depends on how you look at the mind. If you think about the mind like as my brain, just this space here in this limited space, or is the mind, and that's I'll go into that in the book, in the big mind, like which is cosmic. I can be both in the Netherlands and here. And I can be there over there with you, right, sitting next to you if I want. In the spiritually, you know, as we are spiritually, I can go anywhere, and you can too, and we can all go anywhere where we want.
How do you suggest that somebody can get to that point? Because that's kind of a lot sometimes for us to wrap our head around. Because we normally always thought the mind being the brain, but we're talking about something bigger, because we're not talking about the brain. Brain's just an organ, if I'm right. You know, what you put in your book.
That's right.
So what is maybe some techniques that somebody can use to start to access that part, to expand that mind, to get to the bigger mind?
Would you like me to give you an experiential?
Sure. We have a few minutes. Go ahead.
Okay. Now just think of a place, just first move into your heart space.
Okay.
Yep. So you're there now. And now just think of a place where you feel deeply connected with everything. Could be in nature, could be in a temple, could be in anywhere where you feel deeply connected.
Okay.
Can you think of a space? Have you got a space? Okay. So now, in your mind, you're going to sit there for a little while. So you might like to close your eyes, or you might just keep your eyes open if that feels better. It doesn't matter. But in your heart, just go to that space that you love so much to be in. And really, like I'm doing it the same thing at the moment myself. And just go to that space and see the space fully, just as you remember it and as you love it. And feel all the different sensations that you so love in that space. And smell the smells. And bring it closer to you as you bring yourself closer to it. Because that space loves you as much as you love it. This way you join together. And so you can be together right now, over there, even though you're also sitting in your studio. And then when you come back to your studio, you just come back here.
Yeah. It's amazing what you can do. So we have a couple minutes left. How is the best way for people to connect with you, and how do you normally work with people? And we have your website, Universal Heart. Is that the best place for them to contact you?
Definitely. So on that website, there are different tabs. And one of the tabs is called, I can actually go there myself for a minute. It's called Signature Program and also Free Discovery Session. And when they click the Free Discovery Session, they can put their name, fill in their details, and book a free discovery session with me. And then during that free discovery session, we can just have a bit of a chat about what's going on and what the person who makes contact with me would like to see improve in their lives. And then we can talk together about how I might help, or how that person might like to take the next step in whatever direction. It doesn't really matter to me. Yeah.
And you do retreats, right? Because I know, like you said, you're in Australia, but you can work with people through Zoom. But you also do retreats, and you do one-on-one coaching, I believe.
Yeah. So the one-on-one coaching is pretty much online and can be live, but then people have to live in Australia, very close to where I live, which is in central Queensland in Australia.
It is on my live list. I'm still wanting to go to Australia. That is on my live list. I don't do bucket lists. I have live lists. But
I'm sure you'll be today. That'd be good. There'll be some places here that you really want to be.
Yeah, that's a whole different world when you have a different perspective.
Mm-hmm. Yes,
definitely see how you can help people illuminate that, and you have a lot of knowledge and a lot of wealth of knowledge to share with everybody, and experiences. The art therapy is amazing. I know we didn't get to really kind of show any of that, but that's, you and I've done that a little bit before, but it's an amazing journey to do that. So anyway, I would like to thank you so much for taking the time and sharing your insights with the audience. And absolutely, if you did not get a chance, we'll pop that up again here real quick. She does offer a free download of her book, and you can also go to her website and book that discovery call. But I do want to thank you for taking the time and sharing all that with us today.
You're most welcome, Laura. It was my pleasure. Absolute pleasure.
Thank you. And we will see everybody next week.
Okay.